Welcome into episode 507 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. The Boston Bruins get a 5-2 win over the St. Louis Blues on Thursday night at TD Garden. Bridget and Scott, it's one of those situations, we've talked about it before, but if you lose a game, you find yourself out of the playoff picture. If you win a game, you're in the top three. It's just how close the standings have been. So the Bruins right now find themselves in the top three in the Atlantic on points. They're fourth in the division on points percentage. But again, it just goes to illustrate you can't get too high or too low if you're any of these teams this year. But the goal is obviously to try to give yourself a good win streak to maybe gain some separation.
Yeah, it feels like realistically the goal for a lot of these teams is going to be just hang around as long as possible, and it's going to make for, if it stays this way. Now, someone will drop out at some point, and you're right, on the other end, a few teams will start to pull away. But if you have this meaty of a middle section for, I don't know, say in January or like going into the Olympic break, it's going to be really interesting to see what teams choose to do, because when you get back from the Olympics, it is like a sprint to the trade deadline. It's like a week or maybe just over a week from return from Olympics to trade deadline. So it's really bigger conversation for later on, but could be a lot of teams in really interesting spots trying to decide what to do, and potentially very few teams selling. So
and can I say too, for the Bruins, it's particularly complicated because Don Sweeney is also the GM of Team Canada, and he's probably, I assume he's going to the Olympics, and maybe he's talking to people there. I don't know. It just feels like he has a lot to do in that time frame during the Olympics / preparing for whatever trade deadline. Which direction does he want to go? Last year, at that time, it was Four Nations, and it seemed like he wasn't sure what direction to go until right before. Once McAvoy got injured, it kind of changed things. But
yeah, I will say, like, his work's pretty much done by that point. Like they announce the final rosters at the end of this month, December, or I think right around New Year's, somewhere right around the Winter Classic.
I do assume he's going to go, though, right? You think he'll be?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're not passing on a free trip to Milan. Like,
No,
come on.
man.
Come on now. I think a lot of GMs are going to be trying to go, even the ones who aren't actually involved in one of the national teams.
This is assuming that the rink is ready in time, Scott. What's going on?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This whole thing.
What a disaster. Like, I guess not a disaster yet. Let's see where they end up. But for it to not be ready yet, they've had to push back a couple of the pre-Olympic events. So like now there's not going to be anything happening until like 2 or 3 weeks before the Olympics start. And then to have it shorter than an NHL rink by like 3 feet, I think. Yeah, I don't really get how that happens.
How do you mess that up? Like how? And I guess I saw somebody make this point. Like if they fucked up the ice surface, like they fucked up the actual size of the rink, which should be the easiest thing to do. And by the way, even an NHL size rink would be too small because the Olympic size rink is even bigger. But
no, they did change that. So
yeah. So like, and I know just from being at UMass, because they had an Olympic size rink. It is also like international hockey used to be played on that size. So, but anyway, if they messed up the surface, what else in that building was like cut? The corners were cut.
Well, here's my 2 quick questions, and we have an opening shift to get to for you, Scott. So I do know that, but
and this isn't one of them.
No, it's not one of them. But my 2 questions are this, and this is to you guys, to those listening. Maybe you can answer this for me. How much notice did Milan have? Did the developer have about hosting these games? A, and B, the whole part about not having a plan B. How this has been a story for months. How do they not have a plan B over the last couple of months just in case? Like to me, it's like this whole it's ready or there's no plan B. That's another unforgivable element to this. So how much time do they have, and why do they not have a backup plan?
June of 2019 apparently is when they announced it. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. It's like all right. There's an Olympic rink in Turin that hosted in 2006. Like that's still operational. They still play hockey there. So that should be an issue. There's professional hockey in Switzerland right over the border, right across the mountains. Like the Spengler Cup's going to be there in coming December, January. Like, it feels like you could figure something out if they really want to. It feels like the plan, though, for now is everyone's just crossing their fingers, hoping this actually gets done in time, and no one really cares about it being 3 feet shorter, and everyone makes do, and you hope you have a great turn.
I mean, that the dimensions of the ice is like, yeah, it's mind-boggling, but it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day. But I just don't understand, like, because if they are waiting to announce a plan B until like the week or two before, I mean, the NHLPA has a responsibility to their players to, I mean, they could still feel uncomfortable and potentially pull players if it's really not that. I just don't understand the lack of communication.
Bill Daly said that in a interview he had just this past week. Like, he was asked point blank, basically, like, what are the chances that the NHL ends up pulling out of this? And he was like, well, that depends on the chances of this rink being done. He said, if there's no rink, there's no NHL players.
I mean, this is the Olympics. We're not talking about some. We're not talking about some arbitrary international tournament for. This is the Olympics. Like, what are we doing? How are you not at least saying, again, if you didn't have a plan B a year ago, I still think that's unacceptable based on how long they've known about this. But to not have a plan B right now to announce, hey, you know what? If this rink's not ready, we're gonna go to your point, Scott, maybe like Torino or whatever, just to let the NHLPA and the players know, like, okay, worst case scenario, we're gonna go a couple. This is just, to me, it's,
you could just hope Lake Como freezes and play on there. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it's crazy. It's like,
Brian, do you think you could?
This is the Olympics, for Christ's sake.
You think you could flood a backyard quick enough to get a rink up, or?
I tried. Me and a few of my buddies in college, we came home for winter break one time. We tried making a rink, and we went to Lowe's and we got a bunch of material. We got the boards, the wood, like the wood pallets and whatnot, the planks, and we built it. We tried to build it in his backyard, his grandparents' backyard. We built the rink, but then the temperatures didn't cooperate, so it wasn't cold enough to freeze. And I got to be honest, guys, I don't know whatever happened to that backyard situation. I don't know who picked that stuff up. It was not me or any of my friends, I don't think. So
it's still sitting there.
It's probably still sitting there, and that was a decade, 12 years ago probably. But
we could use that rink then.
yeah. All right, Scott, there was a game last night. Let's get into the opening shifts.
Yeah, it was a big win for the Bruins, 5-2 over St. Louis. I think a win that they needed, because they're alternating wins and losses. They've now done that for 9 games. But this was a win where you felt like you were in control the whole time, and not one you just had to survive, hang on, pull out in overtime or a shootout. And another thing they've needed during the stretch is guys to step up and play higher in the lineup than you might think. And the guy who's done the best job of that is Alex Steeves, who continues to play really good hockey in a top 6 role on a line with Morgan Geekie and Elias Lindholm. Scores the first goal in this game, finishing off a nice rush. So Jonathan Aspero starts it. Elias Lindholm hold up play at the blue line, sends in Morgan Geekie, who then hits Steeves 2-on-1 for the finish. The Bruins' second goal that Steeves gets the secondary assist on is even more impressive and more important to me, because it's what Steeves is doing best right now, and that is forechecking hard. He goes in on, I think it was Dvorsky at first, has the puck. He frees up the puck, pops it loose, then kind of ends up 2 Blues players are there. It's Philip Roberg and Colton Parayko, their top 2 defensemen. And Steeves comes in and like Tanner Jeannot last game or the game before, double hit, like just takes on both guys. Puck pops loose again, right to Elias Lindholm, sets up Morgan Geekie in front for a goal, 2-0. Steeves has been making things happen on the forecheck consistently, and that is the biggest reason he's going to have a role in this team. And be in Boston and not be going back to the AHL anytime soon is because he's making things happen. He's moving his feet. He's arriving on time. He's playing physical. He can play defense. He kills penalties. Like Marco Sturm said after the game that, like, basically simply put, he's a player I can use. And he mentioned either wing, up, down the lineup. And it's just, it's a good story. This is a guy who's been, a top scorer in the AHL for 4 years for the Toronto Marlies. Barely got a sniff in the NHL with the Maple Leafs. Just, a random game here and there. Comes to Boston, thinks he's going to make the team out of camp. Doesn't. Has to go down to Providence to start the year. Is a point per game player, plays good hockey there, gets the first call up when they need a forward, and has just never looked back. He fit on the fourth line when he was there. I thought when he got moved up to the top 6, I actually didn't think it worked right away, but then he figured it out, and now he is making things happen there. And he's not going to stay there, like David Pastrnak's going to come back at some point, and Steve's probably going to move down the lineup. I think that's fine because I think the way he's playing is going to be effective anywhere. He's turned into a player for this team and someone who deserves to be in the lineup no matter where it is that he ultimately settles in.
Him and Morgan Geekie have chemistry too. Like you can see it. It developed and it's there. So it's been those two have played off each other, and Steve's helped create Morgan Geekie's goal, the second goal of the game. I did want to read a quote from Steeves after the game. He said, "Call-ups are fighting tooth and nail, and I feel like I've been fighting tooth and nail for 4 years to be here." So this is a guy who, like you said, was in Toronto's organization, and I don't know if we have any Toronto Maple Leaf fans that listen to our podcast, or maybe they accidentally stumble upon us occasionally, but I'm sure they feel the same way they feel about Fraser Minton being with the Bruins now. Like this is a guy that was a prospect for Toronto that is now with Boston, that is making an impact. I mean, he's got 5 goals in the last 5 games. He's not going to be doing that the rest of the season, but if he were to play up the rest of the year, which it seems like he's on track to play the rest of the season in Boston, he would have a career high 66 games in the NHL with them this year if he just finished out the rest of the season. And with Toronto, the most games he got, I think, was 7 in a season. So obviously huge for him. And he did talk about there being an adjustment in the beginning of his call up, and now he feels like his feet are under him and he's able to kind of bring the offense, not just being a good forechecker or being physical.
Yeah, I mean, he's taken advantage of his opportunity, right? 8 points in 13 games. But that's just the point production. You guys are mentioning all the intangibles as well. And I mentioned last night online, but like, good for him, because to be a bubble player, when you do get that call up, you have a short leash. It just is what it is. Like, you have to either make an impact right away, or you don't know how long your tenure is going to be. You could be called up for a game and sent back. You have to make every game count. And that's what he's been doing. And, I think that the dynamic he brings to that line with Lindholm and Geekie is an important one, because he has been a dog on the forecheck. He's been getting pucks back. I mean, that Geekie goal is a perfect example. That not every line mate is going to take on Parayko and Broberg, 2 big boys, by the way, and win the puck back 1-on-2. Lindholm doesn't have the opportunity to have that nice pass to Geekie in front, if not for that work ethic. So, I mean, obviously, no one here is saying Alex Steeves greater than David Pastrnak. But what I would say is, when Pastrnak was back into the lineup, if Lindholm, Steeves, and Geekie continue to show that they have something, because chemistry is very important in hockey. But we know Pastrnak has chemistry with Geekie.
I know what you're thinking. Keep that line together. Kuzi, Zacha, Pasta.
Well, I'll say this. Like, obviously, David Pastrnak is one of the best forwards in the world. This is not me demoting him. What I'm saying is, your top 2 lines are your top 2 lines, right? Whatever line Pastrnak is on is your top line. So if you have a Lindholm, Geekie, Steeves line going, there could be an opportunity to maybe try to reinvent some Pastrnak, Zacha chemistry And then whoever the third guy is, we can debate that. Or you can just obviously go right back to Pastrnak, Steve.
I guess it
Pastrnak,
could be
Geekie,
Middlestat, but I know what you'd rather.
Well, honestly, the way Steeves is playing, like Kuzi has to. That's the beauty. You have to earn your spot every night, right? But you could obviously do
I'm
Pastrnak.
saying if Zacha and Pasta were together, Kuzi could play on the left side of that line.
I mean, but then you have Middlestat. Obviously, what do you put them? All I'm saying is Steeves has created a good problem to have here. Is all I'm saying. Like you have the luxury to figure things out here.
I wanna bottle this a little because I actually do want to get into some lineup stuff.
Okay,
but let's get through opening shifts first.
Okay.
And I did have another point on Steve, so hopefully we
just a couple teases, couple
remember
teases.
that.
This is the skate podcast. We have an hour and 40 minutes left
of opening shifts.
Yeah. Of course, Boston Bruins podcast. So we start off hot with Olympic talk and everything else. Anyway, Bridget. So I'll go next to get this one out of the way. This one has nothing to do with the actual happenings of the two teams, but something funny did happen last night with regarding some discourse amongst fans
at your
and
beer league
media.
Game? No.
What's that?
Not at your beer league game?
No.
That happened after the Bruins.
My toes are still defrosting from that one. That's how late that one was. But no, last night Jim Montgomery returns back to Boston, right? And he got a bit of a tribute. Welcome back, Monty. And there's a lot of discourse online. Not everybody needs a welcome back video.
I think that was Ty.
Yeah, well, it was Ty, but it's a lot of people, and it's a lot of times someone comes back to Boston or anywhere really. It's kind of a league thing, and it seems as though these days teams, organizations are very quick to give a tip of the cap to a returning player or coach when their tenure wasn't that long or their impact wasn't that long or that great. So my question to you guys is, where do you fall on this debate? And in your mind, if you're a coach or a player, like, what's that threshold? Like, you've been around, you coached this long, you played this long, you were this effective, you deserve a tribute video. Where do you draw that line? And do you have a problem? Not a problem, but do you think that last night was an example of, we love Monty, don't get me wrong, but probably could have done with though? Or do you not have a problem with that at all?
Wait, can I just say, didn't they do one in Columbus for Jonathan Quick, who never actually played a single game there because he got traded there and then got traded the same day?
Yeah, but that they obviously knew everyone's in on the joke.
Yeah, that was hilarious. So, Brian, to answer your question, one day, I guess, is all it takes. No, but for real, Scott actually brought this up to me and Emily before it happened. He was like, "Are we getting like a first media timeout tribute for Monty?" And then he was like, "Nope, it's not happening." They like played it late too. Like, you weren't there, Brian, but like the media timeout was almost over, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we got to put this up," and it wasn't.
No, yeah, I was gonna say this is why I'm kind of okay with it. So I do, in general, think like we probably do too many of these all over the league. And yes, I would prefer just be saved for like the real legends or, guys who were there, say call it like 8 to 10 years as a player, maybe like 5 years as a coach or something. So yeah, I wish there were fewer of them. Why I don't really mind this one for Montgomery was because it was so quick. Because so when you get the actual full tribute video treatment, that is, you get to the first TV timeout, and basically as soon as you go to break, you get this video on the Jumbotron. It's well produced. It's 3 minutes long, maybe not 3 minutes, 2 minutes long or whatever. And then, player raises his stick, waves to the crowd, standing ovation, right? Like, that's the full treatment. What they did with Montgomery was, as Bridget mentioned, is you got through the whole commercial break, nothing. And then just as you're coming back, it's just a quick message on the video board. It just says, it's like maybe one clip, shows him on the bench, thank you, Monty. Some applause, and boom, now we take a face off. Whole thing lasts 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I can't get worked up over that. Like, I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I don't have it in me to like get upset over that.
If his first season in Boston, Scott, was not a record-breaking year, let's say they were, 600 on the year, made the playoffs, whatever say they're just an average team that made the playoffs. You think he would have gotten that, or you think it's because
No.
So you think it has to do with the significance of that first year, probably?
Yeah, and he got the Jack Adams. So
yeah,
that's true. That's true.
They completely blew it at the end, and he had a rough series. So I get it. I get the fans who are like, screw Monty. I don't give him anything. I think organizationally, it's an acknowledgement of hey, you did some good things here. You had the record-breaking season. The next year, if we're being honest, the team overachieved, won a playoff round. I guess I just keep going back to it's fine.
It's fine.
I wouldn't have liked it if it was anything more than that. I don't think you needed it, but it's fine that they did it.
Well, there was a guy standing to, I want to say, Montgomery's right on the bench, and Claude Julien, who spent a decade in Boston, had a cup to his name. I would imagine it's been a while. This would have been in the sometime in maybe this 2015-16 season, or maybe the following one. I imagine Claude's welcome back video, Scott, was more extensive. Probably had footage of him with the cup and whatnot.
So I think eventually, yeah, but I'm trying to remember. I feel like he came back pretty quick though, and it was with Montreal. So I don't remember exactly, to be completely honest.
But it would have been more like he would have been.
Yeah, but it might not have been like the very first appearance back.
But whenever it was, I guess you would like to think that, and this is no disrespect to Monty, but if you're Claude on the bench, if all Claude got was a thank you, Claude, and all Monty got was you would like to think that Claude probably got something a little bit more. I mean, he was there for a decade, had a cup to his name, so I just don't remember. I'm sure he did. I feel like there was probably some footage of him with the cup on Vancouver Rays, probably.
Yeah, I also think the fact I don't remember what Bruce Cassidy got, and I think the fact that we're struggling to remember some of these is
kind of the point.
It's kind of the point of why I care so little, because I'm honestly, this stuff is in one ear out the other. I
mean, when
we're talking about this right now, I am never ever going to think about Jim Montgomery's thank you message ever again.
Yeah,
but that's also kind of the point in the sense of how frequent that they are.
Yeah, I mean, but you still remember. I will say though, because I think part of the argument is people say oh, it kind of waters it down. I don't agree with that, because when you get a real one, when you get Brad Marchand early this season, that you do remember. That sticks out. You still know when there's one that means more than all these others. Yeah, so I'm never gonna forget Brad Marchand's. I will forget every other one of these.
Yeah, he had tears, and there was a lot of people that had tears. So that one definitely was much more memorable. But we need to get to my opening shift, if I may. 20 minutes in.
Please.
So mine has to do with Bruins injuries, which unfortunately has been an opening shift for probably all of the season except for the first game. So obviously, these are two major injuries, and we were every day hoping for updates on progress. And today, David Pastrnak skated for the first time since being injured. He's missed the last 4 games. He still, I'm guessing, won't play Saturday. I think Sturm pretty much alluded to this week is out of the question. And then maybe next week at some point he returns, and his is a lower body injury. So it did take him a little bit to get back on the ice after trying to just let that heal. So there is progress there. There is, with him skating before, we're recording this Friday morning. So I'm skating before that, practice, and Charlie McAvoy has been skating for, is it 3 days, Scott? Is it?
No, there's Thursday morning skate was the first time. So, he's been skating for probably a week plus, but
yes,
Thursday morning skate was the first time he skated with the team.
So he's skating, and I'm guessing he's got the non-contact in practice. So he appears to be further along. Originally, Sturm said Pasta will be the first one back. It doesn't look like that at this point.
I don't know. I don't know that I would assume that.
I'll put it this way. McAvoy has gotten more work in than Pastrnak so far. And yeah, maybe it was as simple as we're resting Pastrnak. He's going to have, a skate, a practice, and then he's back in.
But it's also, I would just point out, it's also different injuries. Like Pastrnak is lower body, so that directly affects your skating.
Yes.
So like once you can start skating, you potentially ramp up pretty quickly. McAvoy being his face, you can skate with that, but like you still need that to finish healing before you can play an NHL game.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where both of those guys are in their recovery process. Still not feeling like it's going to be super close, but it's not day to day yet for either of these guys. I don't think it's probably still looking like at least a week, but I did happen to see, unfortunately for the Bruins, there was 6 guys up on the 9th floor. One was a healthy scratch, that was VL, but the other guys were all injured that were sitting up there. And I saw McAvoy talking to the other guys, and he was his face looked much better. The swelling has gone down. If anybody that is listening or watching us saw the picture his wife posted right after, where his poor face was very much bumped out and he had a big scar, and it looks much better than that at this point. And he was talking normal, and he was actually singing at one point that I was standing over getting a coffee and overheard him talking to some of the other guys. And so I was like, you know what? He seems like he's in a good mood. He seems like he can speak normal, and he, everything looked better. So I think that's all positive. And obviously that doesn't mean we know when he's coming back, but it was such a gnarly injury that it's good to see him be able to kind of just have a normal conversation, normal everything off the ice, and then on the ice is still to come.
Yeah, part of me feels like it could really just be like game to game with these guys. If I had to guess, I would guess neither of them go on this road trip next week. 3 games in St. Louis, Winnipeg, Minnesota. But if you told me they are, or maybe one of them can join mid-trip, wouldn't surprise me. Sturm said originally with Pastrnak that he was day-to-day. That was originally how he classified it. Obviously, it turned out to be a little bit more than that. But I don't know if he's starting to skate. Maybe he gets into a practice sometime after Saturday's game. I think they're off Sunday, so maybe Monday, and you see where he's at ahead of that road trip. And same thing with McAvoy. All you're waiting for is for him to ditch that no contact jersey, and and he is still building up stamina and all that. So we didn't get to see it because we were in the press conference, but I heard I think Billy Jaffe mentioned on Morning Brew that he was watching some of practice while we were in the locker room or post practice, and said McAvoy is doing some really hard skating drills to build up. So yeah, it may very well be another week plus for those guys, but personally, I just wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden we were there one day and it's yep, you know what? McAvoy's cleared, he's back in, or yeah, Pastrnak's going on the trip.
Yeah, well, obviously you have the Devils game tomorrow on Saturday, but after that, again, it depends how close they are, right? Because this road trip you have after they play New Jersey, they have 2 games over the next 7 days. So, you're off Sunday, Monday, then you got St. Louis Tuesday, you're off Wednesday, Winnipeg Thursday, you're off Friday, you're off Saturday, then you hit Minnesota. So if they're close, if they're relatively close, you have something to say, Scott? Was there something on the tip of your tongue?
No, I'll pick it up after. You can finish with that.
I was just gonna say, depending on how close they are, it is a relatively lengthy road trip in terms of days, but not entirely in terms of games. So maybe if they're closer, like they could be on this trip, but if not, then yeah, like obviously maybe they just sit out the trip and they get some work back in Boston the whole time, another week to recover. I mean, the good news is, well, Winnipeg and Minnesota, those are tough games. New Jersey could be a tough game. So, you do want these guys back sooner than later. It's not like they're playing a bunch of cupcake teams here. So, but I would just say, like I said, long road trip in terms of days, but not necessarily in terms of games.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to touch on is this is weird. This is now 2 road trips the Bruins have had where they have 2 days off between games with such guys don't like that. Unless maybe you're in Nashville, Vegas, or Florida, guys don't want extra time on the road. They don't want those 2 days off between games. And this is the Bruins had it at the end of the West Coast trip before playing on Long Island, that Wednesday night right before Thanksgiving. And now they have it on this trip where, like you said, it's St. Louis Tuesday, Winnipeg Thursday, and then you're off Friday, Saturday before Minnesota on Sunday. Like it's just weird. It's such a condensed schedule, and yet they have these random extra days off on the road now a couple times.
Anyone know what there is to do in Winnipeg?
Well, they won't be in Winnipeg. They'll be in Minnesota.
Wait, no, I'm saying, isn't Winnipeg the middle game of the trip?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just going to leave Winnipeg is what you're saying. They're just going to get the hell out of Winnipeg, and then they're just going to be hanging out in Minnesota.
Yeah, they'll go, if I had to guess, they'll go Winnipeg to Minnesota right after that game in Winnipeg.
Well, I mean, Michael Scott had to go to Winnipeg for a business trip. He met Concierge Marie there. He had a nice time with her. I mean, you never know. Sometimes Winnipeg, they say one in Vegas, one in Winnipeg, right? So, but yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, though, the rest of this month, there's some tough games. There's some tough games. Like they're treading water right now without the 2 of them. But I mean,
I will say though, not a bad time to get Winnipeg with Connor Hellebuck out. They've started to slide a little bit without him.
That's fair. Minnesota's playing great hockey. I still think Winnipeg's always a tough game. And then you have, like I said, Minnesota's playing well. Utah, we've already seen them once this year. They're an exciting team. Then you have Edmonton at home. Vancouver at home should be a win. If we want to talk about Quinn Hughes later in the episode, we can. I don't think he's going to be in Vancouver very long. But then you have Ottawa. You have Montreal at home, right? And then, Buffalo, Calgary, Edmonton again to finish the month. That's the Western trip. But I'm just saying, if you're without these guys the rest of the month, it's going to be a challenge. There's some challenging games there. So I don't think that'll be the case, but you never know. I mean, I truly have no idea what these guys' timelines are. The fact that they're skating is encouraging. So I guess that's one thing.
Yeah, I want to tie together. So those guys in Pastrnak specifically, his pending return to the lineup discussion we were having. So I'll bring it back around because I do think it's really interesting when Pastrnak comes back, if there is not another injury before then. And I know that is a big injury because it seems like there are injuries in not just Bruins, almost every game you watch, someone's leaving injured around the league. But let's say they actually do have a completely healthy forward group. I think how they would start it is pretty simple in the top 9. You're probably going back to Geekie-Lindholm-Pastrnak. And I will say, I do think that line has something to show because they were not dominant earlier this season. And I do think it's worth noting, and Brian, you mentioned this earlier, that some of those guys have been better and that line has produced more when there's been a real puck hound on it. At first it was Husnudinov who got that chance, who came in and provided some energy, and now it's been Steeves. So I do think it's fair. I still think you want to give Geekie-Lindholm-Pastrnak another look and give those guys a chance to figure it out. But I do think it's fair to ask, who's going to be that guy in that line? All 3 of them should be bringing it to some extent. But Husnudinov and Steeves, when they've gotten that opportunity, have really embraced being that guy. And it's helped free up pucks and free up space for the rest of that line. So it's so if you have 3 guys who all feel like hey, we're pretty talented. Well, someone still has to be that dog. Like whoever's the F1 in on the forecheck still has to be that hound.
I personally feel like they're not going to go to that line when Pasta comes back right away. It hasn't been a line that they haven't really used it that much in a while because I mean obviously injury.
Well, yeah, everyone's been injured.
But also it hasn't like Geekie was moved away from Pastrnak even when Pastrnak was healthy.
But here's why I think you go to it because Marco Sturm likes the second line, Mittelstadt, Zacha, Arvidsson, and they're just getting back together. They had a good game Thursday. He loves the third line. He has not touched that in weeks.
Yeah, he hasn't touched that.
Janot, Minton, Kastelik, I don't think he's touching it now. So I think you start with that top 9. And then you have Corrali centering your fourth line and pick 2 wingers out of Husnudinov, Steeves, and Asimont. And right now, to me, probably the odd man out is Asimont. And I don't even dislike the way he's been playing. Like, I think he's been solid. I just think Husnudinov and Steeves are bringing more right now.
Well, and these are good problems to have,
yeah.
Right? Like this is none of us expected really to be like, well, who are you going to think? Like, I don't know. So, and yeah, Scott, like I totally see that. This is why it's tricky, right? Because I see the numbers game there. Pastrnak comes back. Yeah, it's very easy to go him, Geekie, Lindholm. Second line stays the same. Third line stays the same. Well, Alex Steeves, where does he go? Well, fourth line, because as you said earlier, Scott, he can do a little bit of everything. It's good to know he can elevate his game with higher end players if he needs to. But then there's the other part of me that says, well, we know that Pastrnak doesn't need Geekie and Lindholm to be Pastrnak. And if Lindholm and Geekie are finding a rhythm with Steeves, then is there something to be said about Zacha and Pastrnak as a pair again? While you really shouldn't mess with a good thing until it needs to be. Like, do you just keep Steeves, Geekie, Lindholm going, and then try to reestablish Pastrnak, Geekie, and then? But I do think that's where you start to tinker with the rest of the lineup, and I don't think Sturm wants to do that. So, whatever they decide to do, I see the reasoning for it. I guess I'm just interested to see how it plays out. I do think, to your point, Scott, I do think that just moving Steeves to the fourth line is the easiest because you don't want to touch the third line or the second line. Or, like, could you touch the second line and the third line? Like, I mean, I love the Kastelik, Janot, Minton line. You know, they're not producing a ton, right? I feel like the second line has their games and they don't have their games, but they have been good for the most part. I do like the idea of one of Steeves or Husnudinov being with some of these better players to do the dirty work for them. I just, you know, like if you look at Geekie, Lindholm, and Pastrnak, of the 3, Lindholm should be that dog, but he's more of an observer. I don't mean that in a bad way. Like he's very like strategic, very analytical. He's not very assertive. He's smart. You know what I mean? Like he's not doing what Steeves did last night to Broberg and Parayko. So, but I guess we'll keep an eye on it. Like these are good problems to have. It's good to have options. You put Geekie, Lindholm, and Pastrnak back together, they don't hit it off right away. Well, maybe you throw Steeves back up there. I'm afraid that you lose Steeves. I feel like they've lost Husnudinov a little bit since he went back down the lineup. I think that's just kind of, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but if you go from playing with, you know, Geekie, Lindholm to playing with Asimont, Corrali, it's just going to happen. Though I will say, if you have Husnudinov and Steeves together with Corrali, maybe there's something there. So I guess there's options. Who knows what they do?
And ultimately, like that's the biggest takeaway. And as I said, is a really nice problem to have if everyone's actually healthy and stays healthy. But yeah, I mean, we thought, you know, early this season we had multiple episodes where we're like, how do you even fill out this lineup? Like, who do you move up? You don't even have enough talented guys to put in your top 6. And now we're like, I don't know. Do you keep Steeves in your top 6, or like, can you move Husnudinov back up? And it's like by keeping their head above water through these injuries, like they actually have found some depth that's going to give Marco Sturm some options.
And if you're listening in your car, at home, at work, or you're watching on YouTube, like if you have line combos you want to give us, put them on YouTube or tweet at us, because essentially the question is, do you mess with a good thing, or do you bring back what should be respective order in the lineup, right? So we're curious to see what you guys all think, what your combos would be right now.
Well, I will say I did get some tweets responding to one of the things I posted of Sturm's comments last night. And I'll read the quote from Sturm because this is what I wanted to get to about Steeves anyway, and then I'll read some of the comments. But he said, I brought him up from the minors and I put him in more of a checking role as a fourth liner, and now look at him. So good for him. And again, he's a guy I trust. We'll see. It's tough to get him out of the lineup, I can tell you that. And he also went on to say, I remember he told me, I will be back and I'm going to do everything I can to show you. And the way he said it, I believed it.
By the way, Bridget, he was quoting Steeves, but we got the Sturminator saying, I will be back.
The Sturminator did say, I will be back. I got to cut that. And I do not want you taking credit for the fact that I came up with that. But but so then the comments were, keep that line together. It was a fit all around. Another one. He's on fire. There's no way you take him out of the lineup. I got a few that on a different post on Steve's talking, someone tweeted at me, keep that line together. And then there's kind of what I was talking about earlier, which was Leafs fans being upset. And it was good for him. Leafs have career ruiners in their organization. They draft guys and bury them. Not sure if it's negligence or malice. They have egg on their face, though. And then the Leafs brought in useless free agents and let Steve sign with Boston. They also traded Minton and this year's first round for useless Carlo. Fire. So basically, Leafs fans are noticing that Steeves is lighting it up and Minton is doing well, and they're pretty unhappy with, I'm sure, also the fact that it's with Boston.
Well, by the way, that's like also how a lot of Bruins fans feel about the Bruins organization is like, bury our own guys and bring in useless free agents, except it turns out some of those useless free agents the Bruins brought in this year have actually been quite useful.
I guess the other thing too, guys, is there's some time here, right? Like we're kind of talking as if Pastrnak's coming back tomorrow, which he's not, right? To our knowledge. So there's some time here to see how things continue to play out, right? If Steeves continues scoring and being this type of an impact player for another 3, 4, 5 games, and he's up to 15, 16, 17 points and 15, 16, like if that's what we're talking about, then this conversation becomes even more, well, man, you really don't want to tinker this. But if the line cools down, or just like let's see how things play out here, right? That's the other side to this too. Things, as Scott will say, things usually have a way of working themselves out. So
Scott's a big universe, karma, the universe fixes, it all works out kind of guy.
That's right. Man, we're all just hurtling through space on a spinning rock. Like,
okay. All right.
I'm sure there's some commentary we have for the goaltending, but before we do, I do want to talk about the defense. Victor Soderstrom ended up being the call-up last game instead of Billy Sweezy, as Mark Diver may have anticipated. So it was Victor Soderstrom, and I thought
we should also just clip Mark saying wrong again about himself.
Yeah, because he was like, I didn't think there was any chance Aspro was getting the first D call up or that he would be any good, and then he's stuck. And then he said, "Yeah, I've been wrong before." And he was like, "There's no way they're calling up Soderstrom." And they called up.
Well, I think if you're talking Soderstrom versus Brunet, I do think the right-handedness makes a difference there in that call up. Soderstrom obviously is a righty, so That may have had something to do with it. I thought the Bruins for the first 5 minutes of the game were kind of on their heels. I didn't love their start. Thought that Lohrei-Soderstrom pair in the first couple of minutes, just like the rest of the team, looked a little bit on their heels. With that said, you didn't really notice Soderstrom all that much afterwards, and that's a good thing to me. I think that for the most part, he came in and, he made the plays he was supposed to make. I don't really remember, and I could be wrong, I don't really remember him costing the Bruins a ton of grade A chances against. I thought he was pretty sound. So, I mean, good for him, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like everyone, I know everyone on Twitter when I tweeted the lines out at Morning Skate was like that they're pairing has disaster written all over it. They'll create offense for and against. Well, Bruins ended up 2-0 in goals with them on the ice. Now, they did give up some shots against, like, I'm not gonna say they were dominant or anything like that, but they didn't give up any goals and they didn't give up a ton of high dangers. So, yeah, I at home you can shelter that pairing a little bit if you keep them together for New Jersey. I don't think it's a pairing you'd want to have on the road where you don't control matchups, but yeah, for now in a pinch, one game against a struggling Blues team, it worked out. So let's see if it continues. But I did think Soderstrom, one thing Sturm highlighted about him was good first pass. And I did think there were times, like, if you focus on that, you saw it. Like, clean passes to start breakouts, very important. So, yeah, and he can skate a bit. So, solid start. Let's see where it goes.
And as of this recording, and Scott, unless I missed something, he's not been sent back down to call up, say, like, Sweezy instead for, to change the matchup. So as of right now, it seems like he's going to be that pair probably stays together for the New Jersey game, because unless you want to shuffle the D pairs, but they've kept Lindholm Peak together and they've kept Zadorov Aspero together. So I just, it seems like they're keeping that Lohrei-Soderstrom together still for the, at least the next game. Yeah. So I get what you're saying. It might not be the ideal situation to pair them together when you don't have control of the matchups as much, but it seems like that's what they are going to roll with.
Well, Saturday is a home game too, though. So I guess I'm more talking about the road trip next week.
Yeah, I get you. So I guess there's a chance that between Saturday and then they make a transaction, but still, it looks like next game we'll see that pair again.
I think Lohrei-has been good too, guys, for the most part, since being called back up, or not being called back up, being reinserted into the lineup after being scratched. And I think if you recall, let's go back to maybe right before the Montreal game, or like we're talking about if the blue line's healthy. I remember just saying that I wanted Aspero to stay in the lineup, and I wasn't necessarily saying that it should have been at the expense of Lohrei. I would have had it at the expense of Jokiharju. I would have liked Lohrei Aspero as that third pair. So me clamoring for Aspero to stay in the lineup wasn't me saying, get rid of Lohrei. But McAvoy has to deal with the family issue in Toronto, and Lohrei gets back into the lineup for that reason. And since then, he's been better, and I do think a lot of it has been because of the usage of him, in that third pair role. So I just wanted to mention that as well. I mean, how have you guys felt he's been since being scratched for, was it 5 or 6 games? And I just think we're seeing, all right, like he's I'm not gonna cap him at a third pair guy because he's so young, but at least at this stage in his career, I just think it's better to keep him away from those tougher matchups and just maybe, I don't know if shelter is the right word, but just kind of use him in a way that's going to optimize his skill set right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think shelter is the right word. Like that's what they're doing. They're protecting him. They're shielding him, and it's working. And like this is how Mason Lohrei should be used. Like putting him with Charlie McAvoy, asking him to face opponents' top 6 on a consistent basis. I get it. They want him to be that, and they hope he still gets there. And they were hoping he could be there at the start of this season. He's not there right now. He hasn't been, and that's something he's going to still have to build up towards if he's ever going to get there. But in a third pairing role where you can control his minutes more, control his matchups more, yeah, like you see why you want him in the lineup and what he can bring. And like you saw it on the Victor Arvidsson goal Thursday night, where Lohrei is a one-man transition, starts from his own end, carries through the neutral zone, takes it down the left wing, carries it in deep, throws a puck to the front, juicy rebound. Victor Arvidsson just steps into one. It ends up being kind of a knuckle puck. So I do think it was probably tougher on Jordan Binnington than it looked, but the rebound had to be put in a better place to start. But that all starts with Mason Lohrei skating and ability to transition the puck. You know, he adds another assist on Zacha's goal. In that case, he just makes a pass over to Arvidsson, and then Arvidsson whiffs on that pass the first time, and then still makes the nice cross-ice pass to
That was not a whiff, Scott. That was on purpose. That was intentional. No, I'm kidding.
You think so?
No.
No, okay. No. Well, I don't know. These guys do that. But yeah, and then just a great shot by Zacha to finish that one. But so I'm with you. Yeah, Lohrei's been playing well for sure.
Do you think also not just because of the usage, lesser minutes, third line role, but do you also feel like you guys see him making adjustments and improvements on some of the things that plagued him earlier in the season that Stern was trying to drill in? You need to do these things better. Like, do you think his coverage is tighter? Do you think he's making fewer mistakes in decision making? Do you see any of that changing for him, or do you think it's more just the situation is better for him?
I think I'm seeing a little bit of everything still. Like I think I'm seeing him. I do think I'm seeing him a little bit more physically engaged. I think he's doing a good job, I think, closing time and space. But I also think he's still been prone to the glaring turnover or puck bouncing over his stick or whiffing on a pass, like when he's still in his own zone and people are trying to regroup, but there's still a forechecker, and now all of a sudden that guy's in all alone. I just think that they haven't ended up in the back of the net. So I would say he's getting better, but he still needs to rid of those glaring turnovers that turn into grade A's, because sometimes they cost you, sometimes they don't. But if you're a coach, you kind of look at that situation of, all right, well, if Swayman or Korpisalo, bails him out, like that's great, but they also could have been scored on, and his mistake is still the same. Like, as a coach, you can't just be like, oh, well, he got bailed out. Like, you still have to look at that isolated mistake and what that could have been. But to answer your question, Bridget, I do think it's improved, but I still think, he still has to get rid of those mistakes.
Yeah, I still think there's still shaky moments low in the defensive zone in particular, but behind the net, at the net front. But again, I will say, like, if you're controlling matchups, maybe those mistakes aren't happening when there's a 40-goal sniper on the ice. It's happening when Joe Schmo fourth line grinder is out there. So,
right.
So maybe you do get away with it more. I do think one thing I noticed that's been positive is I do think he's closing guys off coming over the line quicker, like better gap control, not backing off as much, putting pressure on to either force a dump in or a turnover. So that's been good. I will say, as we've noted before, though, it's easier to do that if you have a committed back check from your forwards. Because if the back check's not there, then your defensive instinct is to back off and make sure you don't get beat at the line. So it all works in tandem.
Yeah, it's all about being a 5-man unit. Speaking of the defense, guys, what is, now that we are nearly 2 full months into the season, just from conversations around the rink or observations, have you guys noticed Zdeno Chara's presence? Is it out in the open? Is it strictly behind the scenes? What do you think that it is? Is it more film study with guys? I
Well,
don't
I
think
mean,
he
he's
hops on the ice.
there.
We would have seen that, like, if he's on the ice with guys, but maybe he is privately. I don't know.
He's there almost every day. Both
Yeah.
he's at pretty much every game at the Garden, and he's at a lot of practices at Warrior. You're right, he's not on the ice, and he's not so much doing film sessions. I think a lot of what he's doing is like face-to-face connecting with guys and talking about things and like pulling guys aside to see what's going on. If he just bring up something that he notices. I thought it was interesting during, I'm pretty sure this was Thursday morning, one of the few questions I didn't ask, actually. But so for anyone who missed it, there were only like 3 reporters at Marcus Sturm's press conference at Thursday morning skate, because everyone else went to the Blues morning skate at the Garden to talk to Jim Montgomery. But Sturm was talking about Chara's role and said, like, one of the things he was specifically asked about Chara's relationship with Nikita Zadorov, and Sturm said basically, like, it seems to be really good, but I don't get all the details on it. And he was saying that like as a good thing, of like, Chara is talking to these guys about some things that I'm not telling him to talk to them about, and he doesn't necessarily have to report it back to me. So there's like kind of like a confidentiality there with like Chara and some of these players, where I think they feel like they can talk to him about things that maybe they wouldn't want Sturm getting to, because I don't know if I'm explaining right, but like maybe Sturm will look at it and be like, huh, that guy's worried about that, really? But it's like, if you can talk to Chara about it, well, he's been through everything, dealt with everything as a player, played literally more games than any defenseman in the history of the league. So it seems like Chara does not directly report to Sturm and is able to have like a different kind of relationship with players.
Yeah. From what I understand, it's like a mentorship role. And I assume players bounce concerns, ideas, questions off of him, and he just gives the best answer that he can. And obviously there's such a comparable situation with him and Zadorov being like massive defensemen and shouldering. I know we've talked about, Zadorov may not end up with a letter once McAvoy and Pastrnak get back, but like he does lead in different ways. So like, is he asking Chara how to handle that? Or, there's definitely, it feels like almost like you do have a captain, maybe. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but like Chara is, obviously they don't have anyone with a C, but Chara is kind of there, not on the bench, but day to day available to talk to if maybe you had a question that you would have normally gone to a captain for. I don't know if that's just a guess, honestly.
A little bit. It's different than that too, because like he's definitely not being treated like he's like on the team. Like guys aren't looking at him that way either.
But like, if you had a confidence problem, like he would talk to you about it.
I think would do. Yeah, I think like player mentor is just that the most appropriate way to describe it, right?
Is a captain not a player mentor though? I'm just putting that out there.
Well, I think there's an element to being a captain of like you're in the fight with everybody on the ice, like enduring what they're enduring. So it's, I mean, like, yeah, I see what you're saying, Bridget. It's semantics, but yeah, we're all saying the same thing. He's there to be, like a mentor for them. It gets me thinking about, and again, to have the luxury of one of the greatest defensemen of all time, especially defensive defenseman, recent Hockey Hall of Fame inductee, somebody who played across, decades. So, Chara was playing in the late 90s all the way through the early 2020s. Like he's not just somebody who who played 20 years ago. Like he can relate to guys. Like he's played in the league with Connor McDavid. He played so Nathan McKinnon, all these like he understands like how different the game is now from when he entered, and how little things like angling off players and like how that's evolved. But it gets me thinking about how what the potential capacity could be for a future Hockey Hall of Fame inductee, in my opinion, first ballot, potentially next year, and Patrice Bergeron, who is also being inducted into the International is Ice Hockey Federation, the IIHF.
Yeah.
So I wonder what Bergeron's potential future with the Bruins could be as well, potentially in a similar role with the forwards, or maybe Patrice has aspirations to be like more of a scout or player development, or maybe a GM. I don't know, but it gets me curious about some. I feel like Bergeron in Boston aren't done either.
No, he's been around Warrior a few times this season too. Not obviously not in any official capacity, and not nearly as much as Chara, but I've seen him around there, and he's been out watching practice. He's been in the hallways, so he's not gone by any means.
What a luxury. What a luxury for the Bruins to have those two guys around still, because it's not every day that people are willing to. Sometimes they go off into the sunset, right? Enjoy, so
did Tim Thomas just go live in Vermont for just to go away from everyone?
Yeah. So I guess there's a few things to talk about regarding forwards. We've touched on the forwards a lot. I kind of want to get to the goaltenders real quick. We talked a lot about Joonas Korpisalo in recent episodes. Jeremy Swayman obviously had a struggling game against Detroit, but besides that, he's been excellent. And we talked with Mark Diver about the idea of a Michael DiPietro if he were ready for NHL time right now, if the circumstances provided. Korpisalo was good last night, and we've talked about it. Bridge and I mentioned it recently too. I feel like Korpisalo has been better than what his numbers for the most part this year. But again, your numbers are your numbers. You are what your numbers say you are. I just feel like the team has played some of their worst hockey in front of him at times, whereas they played better in front of Swayman. So I don't know. It felt good to see Korpisalo get a strong performance by his team last night in front of him.
I agree with you, Brian. I thought that Korpisalo has had a good year, and the numbers would say that, he's not quite where the eye test I would say is at. Like, he's been making some really good saves. He even made a really nice save right before then they scored. But like he made this crazy save that Scott went, "Oh my God." He said it out loud. And he does, like, I do think he's probably better than what the numbers say. And I know Scott's probably in his advanced analytics right now. I can see him looking at something. But
no, I guess I'm just more on the side of, like, at a certain point, you're like Brian said, like, your numbers are what they are. Like, I mean, he
lost
3 in a row. He'd given up 4 more goals in all of them.
What is his goals? What is it? The expected goals against? Or
I don't think it's favorable.
It's not good.
But like that play last night is kind of like, it's kind of a funny microcosm. Like, he makes what would have been the save of the year. Well, could have been a save. I mean, it still was a save, right? So you could say it was one of the saves of the year. So it's like, what a save. But then a second later, it's like the Bruins break down and the puck's in the back of the net. And it's like, well, that's affecting his numbers.
They gotta edit that so it clips before the puck gets back to the front.
Yeah, they got just a quick 5-second clip of him making a save.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like, oh, what a, and then just gonna cut out.
Like, I feel like that, like, not that specific sequence, but I feel like that is like a small example of, like, I feel like how his year has been, where he'll make a great save, he'll make like a very impactful save, but at the end of the day, like, the team breaks down but again, the advanced numbers would say, Scott, like, what is it? Is it saves above expected? Like,
goals saved above expected.
So I don't know. It's just continues to be a story that I don't really know how to feel about it. Like, I feel like he's been better than his numbers say, but his numbers are what they are, and it doesn't change the fact of, like, could DiPietro be somebody that's down in Providence that you get I just think this will all work itself out in time. Like, I don't think there's a rush to get him off the roster. Like, trade deadline, maybe he goes, then maybe a call up happens. But I think, like, I'm comfortable with the tandem right now. Like, I guess I would put it that way.
Yeah, I mean he was very good last night. Like, let me just be very clear about that. That was a really good game for him, and I think he needed it. I think he needed A, to play better, but B, to get a result, to get back in the win column. And I do think in a weird way, like Swayman struggling on Tuesday kind of helped him, because getting into that game, making some saves down the stretch, at least giving the Bruins a chance to come back, I think did probably help him build some momentum going into Thursday. So obviously I think we'd all agree you go back to Swayman Saturday, but he'll get one of these games on this 3-game road trip. Unfortunately, that's probably the schedule he's in right now, is going to be once a week, once every 8 or 9 days. But yeah, this was definitely a step in the right direction, and a really good game for him.
And he was certainly the better of the two goalies in that game. Binnington was too fun.
I'm like, man, I just really hope Jordan Binnington's playing him out of Olympic starter conference. I think he's going to be on the team no matter what. But
I mean, he was good in 4 Nations.
I mean, he was awesome in the gold medal game. Like,
yep.
Yeah, so they can't completely leave him home. But I'm like, no matter how much he struggles this year, like I don't want to see him in Canada's net for the Olympics. If the USA doesn't have to face Jordan Binnington, I'm all for that. I'll take my chances against Logan Thompson or Darcy Kemper, or whoever else they might bring.
Guys, I got just 2 quick comments, Bruins related, and then afterwards, before we sign out, I want to bring up one league-wide thing too.
Oh, fashion segment.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a very quick fashion segment.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what this is, so we'll get to it afterwards. Yes, you do.
In the group chat.
Okay, yeah. So a couple of quick notes again from last night's game. I think that was a sneaky big game for Pavel Zacha to get 2 goals. I think. He's somebody who gets a lot of chances but doesn't always capitalize, but he's always seems to be doing the right thing. I think that coming back from injury, that's the other part about the Bruins injury issues too, is like sometimes you think to yourself, well, Middlestad's back, Lindholm's back, Zacha's back, so they must be, well, they're probably still ailing a bit, right? But it was good for Zacha to get those goals specifically. And Elias Lindholm, it's surprising to me that he's flirting with point per game pace, 16 points in 19 games. I don't know why I'm so surprised by that. I mean, I know a lot of it's been on the power play, but does that number kind of catch you guys off guard for a second too?
It does, and I would say especially recently. So, since he came back from injury, he went pointless the first 2 games, and like, watching him, it clearly felt like, oh, he's ramping up. Like, he's trying to find his game. But then he had like back-to-back 2 assist games against the Rangers and the Red Wings. And that was the first Red Wings game that you win in a shootout. So he assisted on both regulation goals in that game. But it was like they didn't really feel like multi-point games, because you still felt like he was pretty quiet overall. I do think the 3 assist game Thursday felt like it. Like, it felt like he was more involved and really integral to what the offense was doing. So this was kind of the first one that I would look at and be like, okay, now I actually saw like effective first line player Elias Lindholm, and not just like, oh yeah, he did end up with a couple assists. Like, this one I thought he was involved in making things happen. So yeah, maybe the point total seems like slightly inflated compared to how he's actually been playing. But if he plays the way he did Thursday, then you're going to be pretty happy.
You know what one attribute that he lacks that I feel like most top 6 forwards have, true top 6 forwards, and Pastrnak sure has it, Geekie sure has it, Pavel Zacha has it, he showed it last night, is I'm struggling to think of many goals, or any goals really, he's scored with the Bruins that have been from distance. I mean, there was a couple last year, like from the sideboards, where it was like a fluke. I'm talking like cross the blue line, or you're at the top of the circle and just like wires went home. I think he had one last year off of a face-off win against Winnipeg. That's the closest one I can think of. But I wish she had a little bit more of an ability to score from distance. That's just one observation, but he is who he is. I don't know if that's just going to happen overnight, especially at his stage in his career. But that's just one. I don't know if you had a thought on that, Scott.
Yeah, like he had one last night on the power play where it comes back to Hampus Lindholm at the left point, and Elias Lindholm was kind of set up in like that. We've seen Geekie, we've seen Pastrnak in the spot, like high on the right side, gets it, and then comes downhill on his forehand. And like when that's Pastrnak or Geekie, you're like expecting them to rifle it home. And Lindholm's shot, I think Binnington made a blocker save. So like it wasn't a bad shot. It's like he forced a save, but you just I think because to your point you haven't seen it as much, I wasn't expecting that to go in, to be completely honest. I was like, looked at it, and like, had that been Morgan Geekie, I would have been like, this is a goal. When it's Elias Lindholm, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Okay, blocker save.
Yeah, I mean, Zacha can score from distance. One of his goals last night was top of the slot. It was pretty far. I mean, it was a softie that Binnington let in, but
that was a snipe though. That was a really good shot.
Perfect top corner. Binnington should have had it just because he had time to react to it. But yeah, I mean, it was perfectly placed. And that's the thing about Zacha is like, he does have a great shot, and we know that. And so like, he's probably up there with Pastrnak and Geekie in terms of being able to get.
He's not, because he misses the net way too much.
I'm saying from distance, like he can score like similar distance away. He's not going to do it as often as those guys, but
he's also going to put it up 8 feet up the glass way more than they did.
Well, Zacha had
Geekie like picks his spot and it's just there. Like he's been outstanding with his shot placement this year.
Yeah, accuracies. I think what you're saying, Bridget, is, and I agree. Like his Zacha's like velocity and shot speed is pretty impressive when he gets it up. But and then to Scott's point, he just his accuracy just isn't there a lot of the times. I mean, he had a sick goal in the record-breaking season in Toronto where he kind of I think Grzelcyk kind of like had an interchange with Zacha at the top of the blue line. It was one of those like offensive cycling shifts, and he got the puck at the top of the right blue line and did a quick cutback left on somebody, just wired a wrist shot under the crossbar. So yeah, he can do it. Lindholm, a lot of his goals, I just feel like they come in tight, and it's just something I wish he had in his arsenal, given the usage he has. But that's just one observation. Before the fashion segment, guys, I just wanted to get your thoughts on one thing league wide, and that's Quinn Hughes. There's been some footage in recent games of him just completely men's leaguing it out there, and to me, it just kind of seems like a player who really just wants out of Vancouver, and he's really trying to force the issue. Quinn Hughes is playing with the Canucks by the time the Olympics roll around, yes or no?
I think, yeah.
Scott, what do you think?
Sorry, I got distracted, so I'm going to need you to repeat the question. I was just trying to catch up on Charlie McAvoy talking, just so I can hit it quick before we get out.
Oh, yeah, no, we definitely want to do that. No, I was just saying, Quinn Hughes is, yes or no, Quinn Hughes is a Canuck by the time the Olympics roll around? Like, to me, like, his play, it's so obvious, like, he wants to be traded. It's like, can this go on for another couple months? Like, this lackadaisical play?
Yeah, I'll say he's still a Canuck, but for the first time, I'm like really thinking it's going to end here at some point. I don't know how soon, but even like going back to even this off season when it was like, yeah, occasionally rumors pop up, I kept thinking like, nah, like he's their captain. He's one of the 2 best defensemen in the world. They'll figure it out. Like they're not going to lose Quinn Hughes. And now if I had to bet, if you put like a year on it, if you said by this time next year, is he a Canuck? I would say no. I would say it happens at some point. I don't know if it's before the Olympics, so I'll say he's still a Canuck then. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me because it does feel like, barring something drastic changing, it feels like that relationship is ending.
They are dead last in the NHL right now. are the Vancouver Canucks. They're 32nd in the league in points. I think if we're talking points percentage, I don't think they're exactly dead last, but they're still down there. You see the footage of, again, you said it, Scott. He to me is the second best defenseman in the world behind Cale Makar, and he's their captain. The footage that I saw against San Jose last week, who was it recently? Their most recent game, one of their most recent games. I don't know. I forget who it was against, but the body language, the lack of moving his feet, the lack of a give a shit meter for a captain, for somebody who truly is the second best in the world at what he does. I just found it completely jarring. Like, I was like, oh my God, like this kid he is making it known to management, get me the fuck out of here. Like, I don't care what you gotta do.
To the rest of the league, by the way, like not just
Yeah.
to his own management, but to anyone else who's, thinking, maybe I will make that phone call and see what's going on over there.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's a play where like the puck's on the left, like basically on the left doorstep, and like the opponent's threatening, and he just like does a flyby through the crease, like by the front of his own net, and like curls out towards the right circle, completely away from the play. And it's like, dude, you're a defenseman. There's a battle at your net front, and you're just like peeled off to go, I don't know, like who knows where. Like it looked like when the Blue Angels do like the like missing angel thing, and like one just flies off. Like,
and honestly, flyby kind of makes him sound better than it is, because that it kind of makes it sound like he's moving.
It was a glide by.
A glide by. I just can't recall seeing anything like this in recent memory of a captain that is just so like. And again, full disclosure, I'm not watching these games in their entirety, but the fact that these clips are even out there, it's like it shouldn't. It's not meant for NHL ice, and he obviously is way better than what he's playing.
You know what Canucks fans would tell you if you said I don't remember seeing something like this? They would say JT Miller last year. There you go. It has been a brutal run for that team.
I mean, you look back at and welcome to the Canucks portion of our podcast.
Also, by the way, JT Miller's now doing the same thing with the Rangers in some of these games. Like,
I remember in the bubble playoffs when COVID struck, and then they went to Toronto and Edmonton for those playoffs. That Canucks team, I remember them thinking, this team's going to be fucking nasty for years to come. I mean, you had a young Elias Pettersson, you had Besser, you had Bo Horvat, you had JT Miller, Quinn Hughes. I mean, they had some players, and they had a young core where you're like, this team's all right, here we go. And then the bottom just fell out. Like, they've had player personnel issues, and they've all just gotten, like, you trade Horvat, Miller's gone. Quinn Hughes his time is ticking. He is gone. He is not going to be there long term. Anyway, that's our league-wide segment for a second. Do you guys have a fashion segment you wanted to get to?
Yeah, I'm going to throw it up on the screen.
Oh, my eyes.
Don't touch your brightness, YouTube watcher. That's so what you're looking at is Merrimack College's highlighter yellow jerseys that they announced this week they are abandoning mid-season. They got so much negative feedback on these that they didn't even make it to Christmas break. No. They just threw them in the trash, and they are bringing in a different uniform.
No, in the video, they're like, yeah, we're going to light these. It's just like they acknowledged how bad this was. And I can say from personal experience, I broadcast the men's game at BU a few weeks back when Merrimack was there. And one of the first things I said to my broadcast partner was, okay, wow, these are just as bright as they look in the picture. Like, these are highlighter yellow. And she said, I don't think I'd look good in this color. And I'm pretty sure no one does. So yeah, I'm not surprised they're getting rid of these.
Were these new this season?
Yeah.
Well, they've had iterations of really bright yellow jerseys that had like the crest on the front of them, but I don't know. These and I don't know, maybe there's a superstition aspect. I'm not sure if their record is bad with these on or what, but yeah, they both the women and the men's team are getting rid of these, and I think they're going back to their blues.
They used to have good uniforms. Like, I would say, I mean, I went there for college, and even before I even went there, and for a little bit after. I mean, their uniforms were nice. Like their roads were navy blue with like 2 yellow stripes on the socks. It just said Merrimack in like a cursive, and so, like it was they were
those
simple.
are the ones. Yeah, those are the ones I always liked. Was when they had the cursive like baseball style font, and they had it on the blue and the white, and it was just really solid.
And then they had yellow jerseys for home. And the best way I could describe those is picture the Montreal Canadiens home jerseys, but switch out the red for yellow and the Canadiens logo for like an MC. That was like their jersey template. And so that was what they did. They were blue on the road, they were yellow at home. And then after I graduated, like I think Bridget said, like they've had a bunch of iterations. They ended up going to white jerseys for the first time in school history, or at least in a long time. And now they got highlighters for jerseys, or no longer do. So what's their current set? Like, is it blue at home or blue on the road, white at home? Is that what they do?
They have white, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
I just had it up. I was as you guys were talking, I was scrolling through their posts and just trying to find a picture that accurately represented. But these are like the whites. I don't know how well you can.
Okay. Yeah, but see, those would be fine if the yellow wasn't highlighter.
Yeah, the yellow, even the yellow in those is very bright, like very high.
Also, the other thing I don't like that they do on that jersey, and they've done on a bunch of jerseys now for a bunch of years, is they put like the school crest on the front of it, which outside of like maybe Harvard, I just don't think any school really has a school crest that is worth putting on the front of your jersey. But I got to give some credit here to Mike McMahon, who I think was leading the charge to get rid of these jerseys, at least from what I could tell on Twitter. Because I've said before, I think Mike McMahon is the best reporter covering college hockey, but he really focuses on Merrimack and has for a long time. But he was, I think like every game he was tweeting about. Every time they wore him, he was like tweeting about like how painful it was.
Yeah. Well, I may have had a small. Me and my broadcast partner may have had a small part in the conversation of getting rid of these.
You know something else too is that they've never had as a logo, at least to my memory, maybe way back in the day when they were D2, they did, but they've never had the school mascot and for those who don't know, it's the Merrimack College Warriors, and I think a warrior is I feel like Warriors are some of like the coolest logos like you could do in sports. Like a lot of teams in over history have done like a really cool looking like warrior type logo. And so if you're gonna do a look, like to your point, Scott, I find the school crest, that's them being like, oh, look at us, we're like Catholic school. Like it's come on, we see right through it.
Brian, they need you. They need you.
You ready for this? You ready for a professional transition here?
Yes.
Speaking of Warrior, how about an update from Warrior Ice Arena?
Wow, nailed it.
Good job. Well done, Scott. Please.
So Charlie McAvoy skated again with the group wearing the red no contact jersey, full shield with like, if you look close on some of the photos, like some extra jaw protection. But he spoke after practice for the first time since the injury. So I'm reading from Jim McBride from the Boston Globe on Twitter. McAvoy said he knew he was in some trouble right away after taking the slap shots of the face in Montreal. He had a linear fracture surgically repaired and has lost 20 pounds. He was told it would be 6 weeks from the date of repairs before he'll be back on solid foods. So that injury was November 15th. So he's only 3 weeks out. Like he's only halfway to eating solid foods.
Surgery was 2 or 3 days later as well. So from the day of repair would be a few days after that too.
And that kind of checks out. Like, we kind of said
he did look like he lost weight. 20 pounds is a significant amount.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of mentioned like late December, maybe sometime in January. That's kind of what it's looking like to me. I mean, anytime you have, the specifics of the injury, it is what it is. But like we all knew it was like a jaw related like fracture or whatever. You're not on solid food, which is exactly what you guys just mentioned. You're you're at least, a month and a half from like, it kind of checks out. But the good news is it sounds like, they'll have him back before at least for maybe almost a month before the Olympics, if all goes well with his recovery. So it seems like Pastrnak is the guy who's next in line.
So wait, what
conversation
did you
earlier.
say he is still not eating solid food?
Correct. Based on what McAvoy said, he said 6 weeks from the date of repairs.
So 6 weeks you can't eat solid food. Wow, that's longer than I would have expected. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's no joke. I mean, that injury was that's as gruesome as it gets. I mean, for a non-skate related injury, like that was pretty graphic. So, I mean, it barely nicked Mark Kaslik, and you only hope that somewhat, helped the full force of it not hitting McAvoy, but it was pretty close to a full slap shot to the face. I mean, that's brutal. So, just glad that he's doing better, and yeah. All right, Bruins play the Devils on Saturday. Do you guys have no Jack Hughes, right? So if the Bruins have injury issues, so do they. Opportunity for the Bruins to earn some 2 points again. They're going to need to gain.
By the way, another weird injury situation with the Blues, who Alexei Toropchenko was out with, how do they phrase it? Scalding burns on his legs. So like you have Jack Hughes, the steakhouse injury somehow. You had Eetu Luostarinen down in Florida with a barbecue accident. And now you have Toropchenko in St. Louis burning his legs with something. I guess you could guess maybe that's like boiling water, like some spilled boiling water on himself or something. Like, I don't know, but weird injuries going around. McAvoy, like you said, McAvoy's gruesome. Also just some weird, unusual ones around the league.
Yeah, and like all food related potentially. That's like just, your day-to-day life. But yeah, no, that one was, Scott brought that up yesterday, and that they're crazy injuries. But yeah, I mean, obviously Hughes has his injury that he didn't get it from taking a puck to the face or anything like that. But yeah, still see a serious injury.
All right, guys. I think we're probably ready to sign out here. So thank you all very much for listening. Enjoy Bruins Devils, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Hey, guys. Thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.